Hello and welcome back to Journeying with Joseph. This is a journey. I'm going to talk about another journey I've been on for years, all of the years mostly. So let's jump right into it. I'm experiencing some frustration in arts. I want this to be a continuation of the last video wherein I was talking about how much I love storytelling and talking about writing this movie and sharing that process with the channel. I would love to do that. That would be a great way of tracking the art, and I still intend to do that, but I'm filled with a series of conflicts and questions about this that I just need to get off my chest. I need to ask because I don't know the answers. So I don't finish many artistic projects. I've been doing art all my life. I grew up in music and theater and loved movies growing up, which is sort of what the sort of thing I was talking about in the last video. So even though I've been doing art all my life, what do I have to show for it? I have to show for it the fact that I just hop around constantly. I am like I guess a kid in a candy store. I want to do music, so I do a little bit of music. Then I want to do storytelling, so I do a little bit of storytelling. And I end up with very few finished products. So I'm not sure what to do about that. And all my life, I've really been hopping around. For a while, I just focused on music and I pushed for music, but it wasn't in a healthy way. And so I ended up burning out. So there are past wounds of identity and vainglory that lie in the arts, particularly in my experience of the performing arts, because my family was very much into musical theater, but I also grew up in an environment that did not show much attention, affection to me, to each other. There's a lot of history in my family, and so I found that sort of attention from like the crowds or the cast members or sometimes some of my family when I did well performing. They would give me attention if I did well. So that sort of ingrained in me this performative lifestyle, this way of living where I don't expose myself, my vulnerable true self, for fear of being rejected, so I put on this performance. So I'm healing from that, I'm working on that, and that's been a tough journey. As I've just explained, I was pushed in many unhealthy ways in regards to art, and therefore I pushed myself in many unhealthy ways regarding art. I went to school for music because it was told to me that I could do that and it would be okay, right? But through that and through what I had learned from my family and my upbringing, it ended up being my ego driving me, whipping me, bullying me into doing the arts, even unto burnout, right? I got to the point where I practically stopped enjoying music at all because I was pushing myself so hard, because I wanted a specific thing. I wanted an end goal. I wanted this to be a vehicle to this sort of never worrying about money again, or fame, or success, or look at me, look at what I did, value. And obviously that's a deeper longing for value, for affection, love, identity, that sort of thing. So that was my music experience in college. I ended up becoming very burnt out. And I remember having thoughts like, there's something deeply emotionally wrong with me that is stopping me from making the best music I can make, but I'm going to try to make music anyway. I'll just push this aside. And I literally did for a long time. So that's where I was then. So as I converted and matured and started giving my life to Christ in a deeper way, I set aside a lot of the arts, a lot of the music, a lot of all of this mess, and just wanted to spend a lot of time being transformed and taking a break from music altogether. These wounds around music had created burnout, and then, made me stop liking music for a long time, and then even became a source of deep anxiety whenever I listen to modern music, which is something I still struggle with a little bit. And So I've just been in this sort of state of flux. Now that's music. That's the biggest thing here. But I've also, like I said, passionate about storytelling. And I recognize where my passion has always stemmed from storytelling, like I said in the last video. So I continued doing art, and one thing I could not rid myself of was this sort of desire that I could sustain my life, that art could be my vocation one day, and I still deeply desire that. I don't know when, how, I don't have any clue about any of those things, but that's kind of where my heart's been for my whole life, and I don't see myself being able to excise that, right? Being an artist is really kind of interiorly conflicting, so I set all that aside. I sat down, did quiet art, which means I sunk my teeth into writing in a deep way. Some of that was journaling, some of that was the story, which eventually became a movie, and I have found a lot of freedom in that, a lot of healing in that, a lot of peace. But this music question has still been sitting in the background, and I still dipped my toes in it now and again, right? I've released a few songs on YouTube and whatever, so it's been fun, but it's caused a lot of micro burnouts over and over and over in that area and in other areas. So that brings us to the present, all that mess, wherein I'm now experiencing what I could call on-ramps to some of these arts. It's time to kind of try to re-enter a little bit. I don't know what gives me that impression other than like prayer and inspirations and whatever, but I have become recently interested again in songwriting, something I feel like I was good at, but always served the ego and never served authenticity, right? Never served the human side of the person. So I've been playing around with that a little bit, and I don't really know what these on-ramps are indicating how they will end or anything, and I am crashing a lot, so there's some confusion there, but I think letting it simmer is letting it heal or whatever. So all of this to say, I've got a couple questions about art, okay? Art as vocation and identity, does that have anything to do with my life, right? So that's there, and I'm going to talk about that more in a second. Second question is, as I've done art, now I get to these places where, all right, I don't, like, it's been a week since I wrote my movie, which is called Expedition. It's been like a week since I sat down and actually fiddled with it, tried to do any progress, because I haven't really wanted to. So there's been some resistance, and since I have such a background of pushing myself, even pushing myself to burnout and distaste for the very art itself, I don't know when to re-enter it, when to push through a block, when to push through a bit of I don't want to, if you know what I mean, versus when to just let it rest. And that leads me to a third question, if I may. Is art about finishing stuff, or is it about enjoying the art? So all of this is just one big messy question to me. I don't know what to do. And even if I did, how would I do it across all these different mediums of art that I like doing? You know, I'm just very, very conflicted, and this whole video is a question. What do I do with this? Now, this YouTube channel has been great to send to people like close friends of mine and get their input, get their feedback. So I'm looking at you, fellas. Give me your take when this comes out, or when you see it, or whatever. So yeah, that's not the end of the video. That's the end of part one, though. I've got all this question. Now let's return over here to identity, vocation, and so on and so forth. So, as I said, I grew up assuming that I could do this art stuff forever with no worries, and it would be my vocation, and it'd be all great. You know, I have this thing I can share with the world, and we're in a system where art is commercial, and I'll get paid tons of money for it, right? That was my perception growing up. So now I'm here. I still want to do art as a vocation, but what does that mean? I've never felt like that impression's gone away, okay? Now let's take a field trip, if you'll come with me. A couple of weeks ago, I had a couple of extra vacation days for work I wanted to use up, and I heard that I'm in St. Louis, I live close to Peoria, which is where the tomb of Archbishop Fulton Sheen is. So I took a day trip, I went to visit him and pray with him and ask for his guidance, being a bulwark of media, perhaps one day a patron saint of media. This venerable archbishop ended up really helping me. I'll put some pictures here if I can I figured out how to do it before. So I'll put some pictures here. You can see some of my experiences. And I also want to read a bit of a journal entry about the experience. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read this journal entry. I really felt like he was there with me, and so I asked about art. His inspirations were largely about healing. He asked what it was I really wanted, why do art, and showed me to the point. To make art is for others. He told me that I should learn to find affirmation in Jesus and not in art. I should put my identity in Christ. Art must serve a purpose. His art's purpose was catechetical. The other inspiration he gave me was that if I meditate on Jesus as much as I meditate on fun allegories for the spectral realm, I'll be there in no time. This after I expressed the discouragement at being 28 with nothing. He had degrees at my age, the Archbishop, that is. Like, he had doctorates, he was super smart or whatever. I'm just trying to heal. Anyway, his message was all about my healing and purpose. It'll come together when I get closer to Jesus. So that was a pretty profound message for me. I've been getting hints of it here and there. I have a vocation, and we're talking about this vocation right now. I have this vocation, and the vocation is to grow closer to Jesus, to heal from the wounded image I've picked up in the past about Jesus, and to give more and more of myself to him. And that's a very healing thing that lifts a burden from me of like, I've got to fix it. I've got to figure out what my vocation is. And I really can't let go of music. I don't want to do anything because of all this confusion. And Bishop Sheen is just like, no, heal, give yourself to Christ, and put your art to a proper end, right? The proper end for me in college was me. It was my vainglory. It was my ego, right? Even to my own harm. And of course, that's ultimately a harm, but even to my own suppression of who I really am. So that was a very profound moment in prayer for me, and it reinforced a lot of these things I've been learning about healing and vocation, and even right-ordered ends, okay? So as a quick side note, I'm also growing very close to St. Pope John Paul II. I'm reading his biography. I'm reading T.O.B., good stuff. And he's talking about how the purpose of every man is to learn to give himself fully to, I don't know, his wife, the church, the religious order he's in. Like, your purpose is to be a self-gift. So if I'm an artist, then I'm a self-gift of this thing, you know? If I'm writing a story, then how is that helping someone? If I'm creating a song, how is that helping someone? And, you know, artists can moralize all day about, well, this art is helping someone, and then still have sort of an internalized or a sort of self-centered, expression of that art, because it is self-satisfying as well. And then there's the fundamental satisfaction of creating story. That's wonderful. So the conclusion of this video is not what I expected it to be. It may not be what you expected it to be, but I still have these questions about art for enjoyment versus art for finished work, or how do I peel the good from the bad? And I won't say these questions don't matter, but the first and foremost answer to any of these is to grow closer to Jesus. And I don't want to sound like I'm preaching. I don't like saying stuff like that because I've heard it in the past as a very throwaway line, right? But I'm really starting to experience the profound nature of that. I'm really starting to experience what it means to make your whole life a self-gift. And so now my question is, what does that look like in my life, in art? So yeah, that's the journey I'm on. This is the little sand dune that I'm crossing right now in this trek through the desert with St. Joseph. I'd ask you to pray for me in regards to all this. If you're one of the friends who I send my videos so that we can have a conversation about the topic, then let me know what you think over text. If you're not, I want to hear your thoughts over the comment section and everything. So yeah, well, thank you so much for watching me question everything. I hope that my honesty can help someone else out there, can bring clarity to someone else's life, as reflecting on this sort of things help bring clarity to my own life. So yeah, I don't have a conclusion. I don't have some big moment, right? Bishop Sheen told me to grow closer to Jesus. I'm finding that message in so many other parts of my life in profound ways. And it's not just a throwaway line anymore, which is really cool. So, yeah, glory to Jesus Christ. Happy Solemnity of St. Joseph. God bless. Please subscribe, comment, like. I'll see you in the next video.